Hi, my name is Horvath from dream-quilt.com. Have you ever mixed up the 100 tiny pieces of your applique? Or have you ever ironed the wrong side of your applique, fusing it straight to the iron instead of the background? If the answer is yes, it might be time to discover the Trousseau trim technique, as it can help with these problems. The good news about the Trousseau trim technique is that you don't need to use fusible web unless you really want to. The applique pieces are created at their final places, so you don't need to worry about mixing them up. Let me demonstrate it on the Buddha and Lotus quilt, which is the 5th project in my ebook, how that process works. If you remember, both techniques, the fusible web and the Trousseau trim, requires the mirror image of your design. Last time with the Buddha and Lotus quilt, I explained how much time you can save with the Trousseau trim technique, marking your design through. As you remember, the fusible web technique leaves you with just a single silhouette of the design, and you will have to mark all the designs, the inner designs, the stitch lines again, and the inner patches again when you work. And the Trousseau trim technique allows you to transfer all those lines, all those inner designs in one single step. So it makes it a lot easier and quicker. Now today we will follow up with the lotus flower, and for the lotus you will need the mirror image of the flower, which is the same pattern, so you don't have to draw it again, but you will use the same pattern that you have transferred to a white interfacing here. With the fusible web, you would need rather a diagram like this instead of the whole design, because you will need to add a couple of seam allowances to those places where 2 petals or 2 leaves meet, so that your design would be continuous. So you will have to take the design apart, and then at their final place on the background you would have to assemble again, and that's when you can mix the pieces up. But instead of taking it apart and putting it together again, the Trousseau trim uses a single design like this and works with it as a unit. That makes your work a lot more accurate, and it makes your work so much easier. I chose a couple of silks for today's flower, a cream, light pink, dark pink, batik pink, light green, dark green, and I also marked all the patches showing which color I would like to use. Light green, dark green, cream color up here, light pink here, dark pink here, and I will use the batiks for these 3 petals. Normally I would suggest you to start with the petals or leaves that are behind something, so like the leaves are underneath and go under the flower, so I would start with those, and then I would start with the petals that are behind, and then gradually I would come forward to the foreground. Now that leaves you with a problem, because the petals are not really in order. So the light pink would come next, but then this piece is dark pink, and it is behind the batik here, but it is in front of the batik here. So you might want to do that petal first, and then go to the batik, do these 2, and then go back to the dark pink again to do these 2, and then go back to the batik again to finish with the petal that is most in the foreground. But if you consider that these lines are going to be covered with a satin stitch or a decorative stitch, it doesn't really matter which is coming on top of the other, because this line is going to be covered. So if you would rather go with the dark pinks and do all 3 petals first and then go back with the batik, that's completely fine. It's up to you which way you would like to do that. Probably the second version would save you time, because you wouldn't have to go back and forth with the colors, but it's completely up to you. It wouldn't really show in your design. Once you finish the edges with a satin stitch, it will not be obvious which layer did you do first. I prepared pretty large fabrics, but as you consider a size of a petal, you could really use scraps of fabrics to do this applique. So it's a very good way to use your leftover fabrics on this project. So let's start with the 2 light greens. I will do them together with one piece of fabric, but you can do them separately if you like, with small scraps. Now, the rectangle I could include that design into is here. You don't need to draw that on, it's just so that you see. So I will mark that rectangle with 4 pins, just to see on the other side where exactly I need to lay the green silk. So when I turn it around, these pins will indicate exactly that I need to place the silk right here. So I just tuck it down very quickly with 2 pins at the corners, just to make it nice and flat, and turn it around again, smooth it out, and now reinsert those pins so that they attach all 3 layers together. You can use as many pins as you like to make your fabric stable. You don't want it to move or fold back or do anything, so you can use as many pins as you feel comfortable with. But one thing you need to make sure, and it is that you turn it around again and remove these pins, because you don't want to bump into them when you are sewing. So it's ready to take under the sewing machine, and we will follow these lines accurately, and we will just a tiny little bit overdo these lines, because these places are going to be covered with a different fabric, and we can go in there a little bit so that next time when we add the other patch, we can go straight on the line accurately. And also on this side, on this leaf, I will go carefully on that line, and I will add just a tiny little bit to those edges. Let's do that now. When you start sewing, make sure your bobbin thread is a coordinating color, a matching color to your fabric that you would like to sew, because this is going to be underneath. This is the top of your quilt, and I always use the same thread in the top as well. As you see, I'm addicted to my darning foot, but you are welcome to use a pressing foot or an applique foot. If you use these two, your feet does need to be up, but with my darning foot I always lower the feet dogs. So let's start sewing. Let's find a place where we can start. Next is to mark out the dark green leaf and put the dark green fabric on top and do the same with it as we did before. And before you would ban me forever for wasting too much fabric, let me show you how you can do that with little scraps, like marking out the two light pink petals and putting tiny little pieces of fabrics separately, individually, and this way you have less to trim away. I can also assure you that I barely throw any fabric away because I use the smallest scraps as well with my quilts, so don't worry. Let's follow these lines. When we are finished adding all the colors, we can prepare the embroidery threads for the decorative stitches. That's where we are going to start next time. Also, we will add some thread painting to our petals. I hope you found this video useful. Please give us a like if you did, and subscribe if you would like to get the further updates. Visit our website, find us on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time, thank you for watching. Happy quilting!